What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Fantasy Shit Show. And if we are the people that you're going to for fantasy advice, you probably already lost. So, welcome. We're gonna do this is just go through, introduce yourself real quick. I'm Tom. Go ahead, lumberjack.
Lumberjack. Fuck.
It's not
I'm
John.
yeah, all right. Yeah. I'm Mishler. Let's just leave it at that, I guess.
Why should I listen to you about anything fantasy advice wise?
Why should you listen to me? Because I win more than you, or at least more frequently than you. You're basically the Dallas Cowboys of fantasy.
I don't know,
You
man.
you were good like a decade ago.
Literally,
It,
it's literally been
it,
a decade.
it's coming up on that, bud.
In fantasy years, that's almost 30 years in fantasy
E-
years.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, I have the belt, and we've got to hunt down the other Tom to give me that fucking trophy.
Are
He
you
doesn't
wearing it
want to
right
part
now?
ways with it. No, I'm not wearing it. I didn't bring it. It's back home.
That would have been a great time.
Uh,
So,
All
I'm,
right.
I'm
and then on the other
John.
side, we got John over there.
Yeah, I'm John. You should be listening to me because I beat Tom every time I play him. I mean, it's
I mean,
a known fact.
in
Been
fairness,
beating
you
you in like
guys
the
have
past
both
five
beat
years.
me. You guys have both. I'm like 1-9 combined against you guys in the last 5 years, and I think I play Mishra twice a year. So like I haven't beaten them in a very long time, and it used to be my rivalry week, and now it just kind of feels
Used to be the only like bright spot in Tom's season. Now he can't even beat me in the regular season.
like it's a really bad rivalry. I can't win. It's not even a rivalry anymore. It feels like very one-sided. But
Yeah,
what we're gonna do, we're gonna break down the games. We're gonna go through game by game. We're gonna give kind of our quick opinions and give injuries to think about. We're gonna go over some different starters that you should think about that absolutely starting. Guys you probably want to stay away from, or like if you're in a emergency situation, maybe put him in that way. And then we'll go into like an upside play, like a somebody you can scoop off the waivers right now. Which Mishler, you should tell me right before we play each other, and I'll go scoop them. And if you have to emergency play somebody, we'll go through each one and we'll give an opinion. So, um, I'll run through this list. We'll just start with tomorrow's game. So we got Dallas at the New York Giants. What's
Yeah,
your thoughts, guys?
the battle for the bottom of the NFC East. It's gonna be a real exciting one tomorrow. Yeah,
I'm actually looking forward to it. I love like that the Eagles when the Eagles aren't on, Dallas is on because if you get the double dip or the triple dip of the Eagles winning, Dallas losing, and then the Red Cowboys also losing, it's the best. Last week was the trifecta.
yes, sir.
I mean,
Uh,
truth, truthfully, who I'd go with in this game, and I'm kind of leaning a little bit towards the Giants on this one, just because the only thing the Giants can do is apparently the Cowboys' weakness is try and run the ball. I've had
It's
Devin,
offense. It's just play
yeah,
offense.
exactly. Just keep the ball, limit Daniel Jones touches, but utilize Devin Singletary. I mean, he's coming off of two decent games in which he's found the end zone. He's not a great play, but if you've got no other option, he's putting out double digits each week in a PPR league. So it's definitely worth looking into because Dallas can't stop anything run wise the last 2 weeks. I don't see that changing anytime soon.
I think I
So for
got the
this game,
Cowboys
who
going in this one. I think I disagree. I know the Giants had a good game last week. Neighbors is tearing it up right now. But I think Dallas actually will win this game. They play better on the road, which is extremely weird in the NFL. um, and I think Lamb's gonna have a big game. Him and Prescott got in a little argument in the sideline last week, and I think it's gonna light a little fire under their asses. And I think they're gonna go at each other, and it's gonna be a big game for CD.
feels like a little To Donovan McNabb thing they got going on this year. So I'm gonna wait for sit-ups in the driveway. I think I'm gonna roll with if I gotta pick a game, I'm gonna go Dallas as well. Dallas is like I despise them, but the Giants are a flaming pile of dog shit. Like there's not really one redeemable spot. There's neighbors, so there is a redeemable spot. Daniel Jones seems like he's really locked in on that one target. If you have to pick somebody else, my upside play is going to be Wandale Robinson. He, if you need a receiver, which receivers are plentiful, not like you need there's plenty of receivers out there, but Wandale seems like somebody that if you need to scoop him, he'd probably get half the targets that Neighbors gets. That route tree is very skinny. It's pretty much Neighbors, Robinson, and then generic tight end. So, what's you guys' thoughts on upside play for any of these
I
games?
think Jake Ferguson. Um, I think they need a second receiver. Colbert's not really that effective as a two. Cooks is hit or miss. I think Dallas is going to rely on Ferguson in the second game back. I think he's going to be a little more healthy. I think he rolls a little bit this week.
Yeah, I think I don't think you're off base on that one, John. I mean, he's a safety net. I mean, you shade all your coverage and everything towards CeeDee Lamb. As long as he's healthy, he's the guy Dak looks to more often than those other receivers. So that's not a bad call at all. I agree.
Overall, though, Thursday games are always awful. So I'm sure this one is going to take the under and go to bed miserable, much like watching the Phillies after Taiwan Walker pitches. So, game 2, we have New Orleans at Atlanta, which secretly this game has actually turned into something I'm really looking forward to watching because Atlanta is frisky. They seem to play everybody well without any reason why. Their defense seems like they get a decent pass rush. They block. They run the ball well. They have some offensive weapons. They can be fun. They just haven't shown it yet. And New Orleans is kind of on fraud alert. So we'll see what happens with New Orleans after last week's absolute beatdown by the Eagles. So, what's your thoughts?
I think it's going to be a good game too. I completely agree with you. New Orleans, I think a little bit more of who they actually are last week. I think it was a little bit of bring them back down to earth a little. But they came out of that game pretty banged up with the Eagles. Demario Davis got banged up. Kamara's got rib injury going. Their offensive line, Ruiz going down. They're not whole right now. So I think I give my edge to Atlanta in this one.
Atlanta has potential. Whether or not they can follow through with it, I don't know. I know they're still butthurt about the lack of defensive pass interference call in that Chiefs game, but they played a respectable game. I mean, the last 2 weeks, Atlanta's been what everyone assumed they would be when they signed Kirk Cousins. I mean, he got a team. He inherited a team with weapons. I mean, he's not Tom Brady, but he's definitely a serviceable quarterback. With it being an in-division game, it's going to be close. It's going to be tight. I think the Saints, they got the humble pie last week from the Eagles. They weren't able to do anything, move the ball. But I don't think the Falcons' defense is going to be able to completely shut them down. It's really kind of a toss-up game, in all honesty. But the biggest thing for the Saints is losing their center, Eric Wood. I mean, he apparently is the whole heartbeat of their lineup. That's what all their fans were crying about this weekend. I was at the game. The Eagles lose 2 starters, but the Saints just lose 1 starter, and apparently it was the end of the world. I was like, suck it up. They played above their skill level the last 2 weeks leading into that Eagles game, but I think I'm probably going to lean a little bit more towards the Saints in this one just because I think they're looking to bounce back, and I think overall, I think they have a better defense than the Falcons. So I would be leaning towards them. I'd look for Chris Olave to have another good game unless they blanket him with A.J. Terrell or something like that, which most teams haven't done.
I'm like I said, I think New Orleans. And now, where do you live, Mish? What's the state that you reside in right now?
Louisiana.
It feels a little jaded. And also, is there gun laws down in Arkansas? Because you keep flashing those guns on the TV show here.
Fuck you, Tom.
So, next game on the docket, it's near and dear to John's heart. We have the Los Angeles Rams to Chicago. John, take it away first.
Hey, my boys came off with a big win last week over the Niners.
Big dub. Red Cowboys going down.
I don't know that it's looking like a great season. They're very banged up. But they fight. That's one thing they do. They don't just roll over. I love Stafford. I know he's not having a great fantasy season, but I love him as a quarterback. I think they go in there and they shut the Bears down a little bit. I do think Caleb Williams will have a better game this week because the Rams secondary is trash. And he might be getting what's his name back at wide receiver.
Keenan Allen.
Keenan Allen, yeah, he might be coming back this week, so he might get a little bit of reinforcement there. But I do think Kyron Williams has a big game again. He's playing phenomenal right now, and I think you're going to see Whittington with a big week this week. I'm calling. I think McVay's going to work his magic on another wide receiver. I think now the kid's got like a game and a half under his belt. I think you're going to see him maybe 5 or 6 catches for like 70 yards and a TD this week.
It's highly plausible. I mean, they've got to go to somebody. They've got the quarterback. I think the Rams are going to win this. I just don't think Caleb Williams has it together yet. I think it'll eventually get there. If Keenan Allen plays this week, it'll probably help. It was nice last week for the Bears to finally get Cole Kmet involved in the offense, considering you signed him to that contract and then
They
Gerald
committed
Everett steals.
to throw to him.
Yeah, and sometimes that's all it takes. I mean, just look at the Eagles and Dallas got it. Just commit to throw to a guy. It makes a difference. But Cole Kmet's shown that he can, move the ball, get points fantasy wise, and he's a good safety blanket for Caleb Williams. But I think overall, there's too much veteran leadership and stuff on the other side on the Rams. Fantasy wise, Jordan Whittington's not a bad call at all, because outside of him, they've got Denard Robinson, and he's not a guy that's going to get you consistent amount of points, consistent amount of catches. He can get you some deep ones here and there, but he's not gonna be somebody I'd lean on. And we'll see what happens with Kyron Williams. I mean, I traded him away before this year started.
You got a haul for him, though. You got a monster haul for him. Like, somebody overpaid, but whatever. It's
that's
no
just
big deal. It's no big deal.
That's just you being jaded, Tom. It's just you being jaded.
So my thoughts. I'm going to a couple questions for you guys. So the Chicago offense, putrid so far. Over under passing attempts for Caleb Williams in this week, 42. Over under, guys.
Oh, definitely under. Because if anything, he's going to tuck it and run more often than not. I don't see him throwing. You think he's going to throw more than 42 times?
He's going, dude. They have nothing. Like, DeAndre Swift looks cooked now. It's rough, and that offensive line is not doing him any favors. Everything about that team I thought was going to be good is bad, which standard for my fantasy judgment. Like, if anything, I think it's the opposite. So please never listen to anything that I say on this. However, if you were going to ask me honestly, I'm going to go all Rams, because Sean McVay is a sorcerer when it comes to putting people into places. Like, Puka Nacua came out of nowhere last year. He had Matthew Stafford running. He turned Baker Mayfield. He got Baker Mayfield another contract in Tampa, which turned into another, $45 million. That's Sean McVay's fault. He was ready to be out of the league. The Panthers do that to people. We'll get to them later. But the Panthers will destroy careers. Look at Jimmy Clausen.
Jimmy Clausen never had a career, and we all know it.
Yeah, it wasn't the Rams. It wasn't the Panthers' fault.
Charlie Weiss ruined Jimmy Clausen, or Jimmy Clausen just ruined Jimmy Clausen.
But yeah, I think I'm going Rams on this game. I love the Bears upside before anybody fantasy wise. I'm going to stay with the Rams. I feel like plug and play. The NFC West is the way to go as far as a plug and play team. The NFC Central with Chicago, not ideal. Next game, we got Minnesota at Green Bay. Fun game. This one's been, Minnesota is got that got a little mojo cooking right now. You got Sam Darnold. He's trying to hook up with that the Hawk Tua girl, which is fantastic. He's really aiming high. But I like Minnesota. Like, I feel like their whole, like, Kirk Cousins never had the winning, like, swagger, I guess you want to say, right now, of Sam Darnold. Like, I look at them, I'm like, okay, maybe they are something. And you look at JJ McCarthy, who knows? I like him. But as far as fantasy players for this one, my boy Ty Chandler, I'm waiting for a breakout. It's just a matter of time before Aaron Jones goes down. So, not starting him, but I do love him. What do you guys got?
It's a tight one. Green Bay's been playing well. The defense is playing really well, keeping things held in check without Love in there. Love is limited practicing. Is it outside shot he plays this week? I think they sit him one more.
There is a possibility he plays.
Yeah, he's been practicing on a limited basis, so I think there's a chance. But I think they're going to roll with Malik Willis again since they won the last 2 games. So I think you're going to see another big week between Jacobs and Emmanuel Wilson or at running back. So I think that's probably where
How do you
Green
like
Bay's
that
going to
split
go.
going forward?
I think it's going to be Jacobs for the time being, with the majority of the carries. But I could see a changing of the guard there at some point. Thing is, they're paying Jacobs a lot of money.
For a lot of years.
I don't think he's going to go quietly. But maybe it'll lay a little fire under him and get him going. As far as receivers go, Jefferson was off the injury report today for Minnesota, so I think he's all systems go. And they might get Addison back this week, so give Darnold some more targets. He's looked really good, but we'll see. I think it's going to be a very good game. I think it's going to be tight. I think it's probably not going to be super high scoring, so I wouldn't look for a ton of fantasy points out of it, but I think it will be a good game to watch.
I don't know. Yeah, I tend to agree with you in regards to the high scoringness of it. I can't name a single player on Minnesota's defense, but somehow they're putting up double digits in those leagues out there that still have defenses in them, which most of us aren't a fan of. But I think they're probably, because they have that strong defense, I think they're going to shut down Malik Willis. They're probably the best defense he's faced so far this year. And they're just going to load up the box, try to stop Josh Jacobs and whoever else is running. And I think Minnesota's got this one probably fairly easily. I agree with you. I don't think it's going to be a high score game, but I think their defense has helped carry them. Their offense is balanced, and Sam Darnold, he's playing with house money. I mean, the guy was a first round pick. It hasn't panned out for him. He's just out there slinging it. Like,
Good
I
for
was,
Sammy. Good for Sammy.
yeah. He's a guy like I thought fairly highly of when he came out of college, but it just didn't pan out. He was never with the right team, and I think, this may be like a Baker
team was he
Mayfield
with?
type stop.
Just to reinforce my point from earlier, what team was he with that destroyed his career?
The Jets?
The Carolina Panthers.
The Jets and the Panthers. Both are career destroyers.
Yeah, I was going to say.
It's career ending.
Yeah, it's murderer's row of teams you don't want to be quarterback for.
Hey, throw the Browns in there and you got the trifecta.
Exactly.
But the Browns pay their people. They pick the wrong one every time. So the I don't care bowl of the week is Pittsburgh at Indianapolis.
Oh.
I truly don't care and don't even want to think about it. Like, as far as fantasy goes, yes, this is fine. Anthony Richardson is throwing like 12 passes a week. 4 or 5 of them are completed. You have 25% of the offense is getting like 3 looks a game. They might get 20 yards. It's brutal if you don't have Jonathan Taylor on the Colts offense.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh, like I said, I like Justin Fields. I think George Pickens. You get a little Najee in there. See what happens. I really don't care about this game, though. This is one that if it comes on, like, I'm going to want to blow my head off. So, thoughts?
How do you really feel, man?
The only thing worse is than watching Anthony Richardson fight Justin Fields for, like, bottom supremacy of the opposite conference. Ugh.
Yeah, this is. I think Pittsburgh wins this game. Their defense is going to completely stuff the Colts down. I think Richardson's going to just do nothing in this game. Taylor is going to be stopped. He's going to. He's going to do Taylor things. He'll get 60 yards and maybe a team. But I think that's where it stops. They're going to go to throw the ball and take him completely out of the game. I don't love any of the Pittsburgh players, particularly for fantasy. I don't love the quarterback play. I don't think Fields is a great passer. If I had to pick a player, I'd probably go with Najee Harris. That would probably be it. I know Jaylen Warren's a little banged up with his knee, so he may not be playing this week. So that's a little bit more in Harris's favor. So
fire up Najee, yeah.
Yeah, 3 yards in a cloud of dust about 15 times. He's awesome. He's awesome. Um, Truthfully, he's just biding time until Jalen Warren actually gets healthy. I'm pretty sure that's Warren's job to steal if he ever gets healthy, based upon the end of last year. And unfortunately for George Pickens, it's Justin Fields throwing him the ball. In an Arthur Smith offense, they're they're fantasy. The whole team's fantasy suicide. But you can't say anything better about the Colts because they've got a 1,000-yard receiver that the quarterback hardly ever looks at in Michael Pittman Jr. I know because he's been doing absolutely nothing on my team all year, but luckily I win in spite of him. But yeah, Pittsburgh's defense is going to be too much for the Colts to overcome. Anthony Richardson, it's going to be much similar to what I was talking about in the last game. The quarterback's outclassed. The defense has to focus on the run. They're a good enough defense to stop the run. I think this is Pittsburgh all day. Unfortunately for the Colts, who looked promising last year, and Anthony Richardson just has to learn to step his game up to see if he's ever
honest
gonna
question.
pan out.
Honest question here. Rest of career. You're starting a team. Anthony Richardson or Justin Fields? You're trying to go your best. Like, what's your rest of career prediction for either one of them?
I'd go Fields. I mean, we talked about this. I know me and you talked about this earlier in the offseason time. I would have loved for the Eagles to pick up Justin Fields and sit him behind Jalen Hurts. I think if he gets the right opportunity to sit and learn an offense for a change, it'll help him. Anthony Richardson, I never saw it coming out of college or anything. I mean, Justin Fields could win games. He ran a good offense at Ohio State. So, like, at least he has a track record of doing it. It's just in the NFL, he didn't really get a fair shake with the Bears. I mean, the Bears got their shit together and then shipped him off.
I mean, not.
They put not get all right.
Games.
All right, let's not say got their shit together, but like they attempted to build a team around Caleb Williams, which they never did with Justin Fields. I mean, the games they won, the things he did in Chicago, he did it in spite of the guys around him. So if we're between the two, I think it's an easy call. I think it's Justin Fields all day.
I agree with that. John, what do you think?
I actually think it's Richardson. I think they're both great athletes. I think Fields in college had all the talent in the world to work with on that team, both offensive line, the skill position players. I think I could have played quarterback on that team and it looked okay. Whereas Richardson went to Florida, he only played 1 year, really starting. But he's a phenomenal athlete. The guy's got a cannon for an arm. I mean, he can throw the ball downfield better than anybody. He can make the big passes. He can't make the little ones, which is amazing. I saw a tweet
PJ just runs the all-go route every play.
I saw a tweet this week that said he can make 99% of the passes that NFL quarterbacks can't make, and he can miss 99% of the passes that NFL quarterbacks can make. It's like a perfect description of the way he plays. But I think you give him a couple more years. I think he was thrown in too soon. I think he should have sat behind somebody for a year or so to learn how to play quarterback. He's an athlete out there slinging it. But I think if you put him in the right tutelage, he's got a chance to grow into something solid, at least. I don't think he's Lamar Jackson, but he could be a solid NFL quarterback.
So if you were developing Anthony Richardson, because I get I don't know why, a little Jamarcus Russell vibe from him, just by probably because he's the same height, and they can launch the ball. I don't know if you guys remember that video of Jamarcus Russell throwing the ball from his knees 50 yards. That was the thing with him. What coach, if you had to match up Anthony Richardson with somebody that was going to train him, do you feel like, and you take a second to think about it, right now in the NFL, what coach do you pair him with to be I think he's going to work out? And I've been thinking about this for a second, so I'll go first. I think Sean McVay. He seems to get the most out of the players where he puts them, and he would change that offense and it would work because that's what he does. He's smart.
I think Matt LaFleur, honestly, I think he did a great job with Jordan Love. I think Richardson doesn't have a crazy different skill set. He's slightly more athletic than Love, but
same coach tree, right?
Yeah,
yes.
McVay.
Yeah,
he was under McVay in before he became the head coach at Green Bay. Yeah. So I think he's a good guy for him.
You want to copy us, Mitch, or do you have somebody original?
I can give you somebody original. I mean, like John said, maybe if he just has more time in with the offense he's in, look no further than his own head coach. I mean, Shane Steichen, what did Shane Steichen do with Jalen Hurts? What took him all the way to the Super Bowl? Played, with the exception of one play in that Super Bowl, Hurts played immaculate to the point everybody thought he could have been MVP if he just, didn't already rubber stamp it to Pat Mahomes. And then look at what that offense did as soon as Steichen left. All the ingenuity went away. They were flat. Hurts regressed. He still hasn't fully bounced back from it. I mean, granted, we're only 3 weeks into a new offensive coordinator, but he's already proven he could do it with a similar quarterback, one that can move, has mobility, has an arm.
So
Granted, he has a lot more reps, but as Eagles fan, I'm not gonna lie, I miss some Shane Steichen. Hopefully, they can turn it around this year. But I mean, he clearly, at the time, we didn't realize what we were losing, and then last year happened, and it was blatantly obvious.
Next game we're going to talk about is actually the Eagles at Tampa, and I have a lot of thoughts on this game. I don't know. I'm going to just throw this out there. Like, as far as fantasy goes, like, obviously fire up all the Eagles on my end, but like Tampa. So I mean, fire up Mike Evans. I hate Rashard White. I don't think he's gonna like. I think Bucky Irving's eventually gonna get the reps down there. But as far as the game itself, so not fantasy wise, does the Jalen Hurts career arc, feel eerily similar to another quarterback that used to wear number 11 in Philadelphia right now? I feel
it's way too soon to make that call.
That there's a lot of similarities to watching the first 5 years of each. You watched Carson Wentz in his second year basically bring the team to a first round bye the playoff. Like if you go back and you watch tape of that year now, he looks phenomenal. You're like, where is that guy at? You go back and you watch Jalen Hurts from 2 years ago or 3 years ago when he went to the Super Bowl and made the run there. Great. They both got paid. Jalen's got, I think, more weapons than Carson's ever had. But it feels very, very similar watching the games that they can't read the defense correctly. There's a lot of mistakes, and honestly, if Saquon wasn't on this team, I don't think they would have won a game this year, to be honest.
Yeah,
but thoughts?
Go ahead, Pat. I'll let you handle this one first.
Gotcha. It's way too soon to make that comparison. And
there's
the reason why the comparison doesn't work is because the presence of Nick Foles winning a Super Bowl. Like that played a untold amount of psychological damage on Carson Wentz. He got the shot the next year. He wasn't never fully healthy the year after, so he never got it together to bounce back. I think Jalen Hurts' regression has everything to do with what we just talked about, is the coaching changes.
But
Philly
coaching
thought they
changes
could just
like he never jammed that ball into the end. Like he was forcing throws
everything last year because they ran the most vanilla offense last year. I mean, when Chris Collinsworth is pointing out how simple your offense is, it's a very bad offense, and they made no changes. They didn't help him. And Chris Collinsworth's a moron, but he could at least see it. As Eagles fans, we could see it. When you run plays to half the field, yeah, you're not going to be able to do it. And if they only have to cover that half of the field, it limits you. So while I'm not happy with his regression, yeah, he forced a lot because he wasn't given any opportunity to do anything else. They thought they could just, run it back with different guys. They thought it would work with Brian Johnson because he's been his coach since he was, a little kid or whatever. But the guy was, unfortunately, Brian Johnson was either him or a combination of him and Sirianni were just outclassed last year. And I think we'll see a difference. Is he still forcing stuff this year? Yes. But I think more time with his offense will help him bounce back. The scary part about this week is just whether or not they've got enough horses to stay in the game. I
They have one
think
horse, and they better ride the horse the whole day. But
you would think that, but hopefully they will. It should be in their favor with Vita Vea. I don't know if he's going to be healthy. Kalijah Cansey, don't know if they're going to be healthy.
there,
You
there's a
got to
good chance
ride.
there's a hurricane happening down there.
You
John, what do
got
you
to
think? I
ride
need
Saquon.
unbiased opinion.
Well, let me start with the Hurts conversation. I don't think he's Carson Wentz. I think he's not nearly as mentally soft as Carson Wentz was.
That's fair.
I think a lot of his struggles come from just as Michler was saying, the system. I mean, he's had 3 different offensive coordinators in the past 3 years. Previously, before that, he was under that system for multiple years. So it wasn't like he just learned it first year as he was going. So I think you give him another year under Kellen Moore, things will change. He needs to stop turning the ball over. I mean, that's like the number one thing. He just needs to be more careful with it. It's going to cost them at some point. They've gotten lucky that they have. I mean, they've had a negative turnover ratio for 11 straight games. That's insane. Like since the Chiefs game last year, since the last time they had a positive turnover ratio in the game. So
That's almost a full season.
yeah,
It's coming up on a full season, which is insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of it was, last year forcing it, and it's this year feeling like he has to do the same thing. I mean, he had those early turnovers in the Packers game. The first one, I had no idea on God's green earth what he was looking at. The second one was a bad, the second one he threw across his body, in which, yeah, he probably shouldn't have thrown it, but AJ Brown did slip on that terrible Brazil field when he threw that ball. So had he not slipped, AJ Brown may have caught that ball. His interception last week, I know Sirianni tried defending him, but he threw it in between 2 defenders. I mean, regardless of whether or not that was the play call, and if Smith stepped in front of the safety, it was still going to be a hard catch. He tried to force it in, and I think that's a lot of it. He doesn't have comfortability in the offense yet, and he doesn't have a safety valve of AJ Brown. He doesn't have the confidence in his other receivers. It was nice to see him go to Goddard last week. Obviously, he has comfortability with Devontae Smith, but I think eventually he's got to make throws, and he's got to make threatening throws to these other guys. They've got to run go routes to Jahan Dotson at some point. Try to take the top off the defense, and I think that's just going to open everybody else up. Antoine Winfield, I don't think's playing this week, so this week would be a perfect time to do that. Run the ball, play action deep, see what works. You've got to take shots eventually. To just, if nothing else, to be a threat to
Soften
him.
that defense up. And I know that I've been accused of being too positive sometimes about the Eagles. I am just always a rose-colored glass. The glass is always very full with the Eagles. However, what I was getting at with the Wentz thing is it feels like the turnovers are getting a little careless. It feels like they're coming more and more in a space where he never used to have those problems, and he feels like he's regressing as a quarterback. Not necessarily just the coaching, because you guys are right; it's definitely a coaching issue. But those type of things are they're plays that he makes that feel forced, and I don't know why he's forcing them. So, but we are so I'm going to hit a couple of these games here. We're not going to go through every single one. I'm going to go through the spicy matchups that I think are going to be fun this week, and just get you guys' opinions on them. So, started off Washington at Arizona. What do you guys think of that one?
This is a fun one. I think you're going to see a lot of offense in this game. I think it's going to be another Jaden Daniels show, another Kyler Williams show.
I hope so.
If you have either one of those guys in your fantasy team, you're smiling right now. You got to be happy. I saw Harrison popped up on the injury report today. That was a little concerning, but I think he's just nicked up. I think he's going to play. And if he does, every number one wide receiver has had a field day against his Commanders defense. So fire him up for sure. I don't know that McLaurin duplicates what he did last week. I do like him, but he's never been a touchdown guy. That's kind of been the thing that's held him back. So maybe this week, a little sneaky one. look out for Noah Brown to score a touchdown. Maybe put up 60 yards receiving. He's starting to get integrated in that offense a little bit more. You might see him do something there. McBride's a little banged up too. I don't know how big a game he has, if he even plays the concussion protocol, so we'll see. As far as the backs go, Connor's always a good play for a touchdown and some decent yardage. I mean, he does everything. He's a really good running back. And Robinson is too. And Eckler's not playing this week, so he might be more involved in the offense than normal. So I say, you got anybody on these two teams, fire them up. I think I got the Cardinals to win, though.
Fair enough. I think it's just a matter of time before Jaden Daniels comes back down to earth and looks a little bit like a rookie quarterback. Unfortunately, I don't think it's this week. I don't think it's Jonathan Gannon's defense that does it to him. It's gonna happen eventually, but the thing about him is he's a rookie unlike other ones out there. I mean, the guy started 55 games in college. That's why he's able to do the stuff he's able to do. He's not forcing it. He's not trying to make crazy things happen. He's keeping everything within his ability and his skill set. He slides. I mean, I liked him coming out of LSU just because of his composure. The skill set's definitely there. It was just, will the right team be around him? I think he's going to put up plenty of points. Like you said, Eckler's not there. He's probably going to rob some more touchdowns out of Brian Robinson, like he's been doing all year. He's basically, I mean,
He's become Kareem Hunt.
I was going to say more like Jalen Hurts minus the tush pushes. I mean, he's going to poach points from those running backs his whole career. I don't think the Cardinals are the ones to slow him down. I would be full go with Jaden Daniels this week as well.
See, I'm thinking the Cardinals. I'm with John. I'm Kyler Murray, Marvin, 50 points in the first half. And then they'll bench him. They'll sit down. So question for you guys. So Jaden Daniels or Jalen Hurts, rest of career. Same question we had before. They're both like Jalen Hurts is not that much older. He's like what, 25?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So going forward, I like off of the 3 games. Obviously, you think, Mish, that this is a smoke and mirrors thing.
Do
I
they
think
stay with their
Daniels
current
going
team?
forward.
That's part of this question. Do they stay with their current team?
Yeah, stay current teams. Current teams.
Hurts.
And it's easy. Yeah, it hurts easily because of the team around him, because of the coaches around him. Maybe Sirianni's not around next year. Maybe Kellen Moore's running the whole ship, but they're just better. I mean, Kingsbury's already burnt out. Dan Quinn. I mean, I think actually Dan Quinn's a decent coach. We'll see what happens with that offense. But yeah, it's still Jalen Hurts because of the organization around him, regardless of what happens with his head coach.
Yeah, like Washington's got McLaurin locked up. He's not as good as either Devontae or A.J. Brown, who are both locked up too. You got Saquon for a couple more years. Like, the Eagles have that foundation where Hurts is going to be good for at least the next 3-4 years, like on top. Like, he's going to be at the top of his game. So if he gets the turnovers down, they're going to be lethal.
I love Jalen Hurts. I want him to do well. I'm overly positive about the Eagles whenever I talk about them. So I'm going Jaden Daniels. I think that the Commanders are coming up. I think the Cowboys fade, and I do think the Eagles are there for the next 3 years. But after that,
I could see.
There's a lot of stuff happening after that I feel like it's going to eventually swing back. Not for long. Never feels like for long, but I do feel like the Commanders are going to come up. Next game get into is Buffalo at Baltimore.
I feel like this is a prove-it game for Josh Allen. I mean, he's beaten everybody in front of him. He's looked great this year. He spreads the ball incredibly. I kind of regret not picking up Shakur or what's his name? What's the rookie's name? Keon Coleman. Yeah, I kind of regret not picking one of them up. I didn't think they were gonna just look as smooth as they do. But I mean, this week would be a true test for them. I mean, the Ravens are the best team they've played so far this week. They've got a decent defense. And I think they're going to run the ball and try to control the clock as well. That and the Ravens need it more right now. So I think it'll be a fairly close game. I'm kind of leaning Ravens. Hopefully they can build on that momentum from last week. But I don't think they're going to completely shut down Josh Allen. He would be the number one, the number one guy on the Buffalo Bills. Um, Quickly followed up behind James Cook, because even if James Cook's not able to run, the guy's a great pass catching option, and that new offensive coordinator is making sure he gets the ball and spreading it well. I'm leaning Buffalo, but maybe by a field goal at most.
What do you got,
Yeah,
John?
yeah. I think yeah, I agree with you as a prove it game. I think more so for the Ravens though. Yeah, they handed the Cowboys a big loss last week, but the Cowboys they haven't looked so great. Um, they got to prove that they belong in the playoff picture here, right? Like I mean, this is a big matchup. Um, Buffalo's been playing out of their mind right now. I really thought they were going to drop off a little bit this year. They lost a lot of guys in the off season. But I mean, yes, they just destroyed Jacksonville, who looks like the worst team in the league right now. But you're right about Josh Allen. He is slinging it. He looks better than he ever has. He's moving the ball around to everybody. I think Kincaid has a big game this week. Roquan Smith has a bum ankle. I think that might free him up a little bit. I think for Baltimore, it's going to be the same normal guys. It's going to be Henry. It's going to be Jackson, Zay Flowers, and one of the tight ends. If you can guess which one's going to go off in a particular week, be my guess. But it's been looking likely this year a little bit more than Andrews. But I think Andrews has the game this week. I think he's the guy. I think they're going to get him more involved. I think they need to.
I agree. I think the Buffalo at Baltimore, so I do think being in Baltimore is a big thing. And who needs it more? Like who needs it more this right now? And I think it's Baltimore. Baltimore, they're running it well. They're starting to look a little bit more polished. Like they have to round into form. They're a running team. It was running is timing. So like it's running. They're eventually gonna work their way in, and the offensive line they're working their way into form. They're obviously at the end of the year. I think Baltimore. I think both of them are going to be in the hunt. Um, fire up Lamar Jackson, fire up Zay Flowers, and I do think I agree, John. Mark Andrews feels like he's due. Feels like he's not been like unleashed yet. And if you're going to attack that Buffalo defense, like you would attack it through the tight ends if you can. So I do feel like Baltimore matches up pretty well with Buffalo. I'll take Baltimore for the win at home. If it was in Buffalo, I do think I'd go Buffalo though. It's close. Last game we're going to get into, guys. Seattle at Detroit. Um, thoughts on this? Like Seattle feels like a Jekyll and Hyde team. You never really know what you're going to get with them. They have a lot of players fantasy wise that I hate even thinking about having on a team. Like they're not fun to root for. Anybody catching the ball, you're like, oh yeah, they're catching the ball, they look great. But Geno Smith's throwing them the ball, so it always like takes you back to earth. Anytime you feel good about a running back, they wind up getting hurt, and the other guy looks good while they're in the way, and then that guy gets hurt, and it's just kind of like a Rubik's cube of just revolving players that come through there that you feel good about, but nobody ever stays healthy. JSN, who I've been, me and Justin Fields have really liked for a long time. I feel like JSN is not getting the looks that like Lockett still feels like he's eating into what JSN's production should be. And then on the Detroit side, John, you and I spoke about this a little earlier. The running back situation there, like Jahmyr Gibbs, Jahmyr Gibbs looks electric when he plays, but he plays half the time. And you never feel like I feel like his floor is like 15 points and his ceiling is like 18 and a half points. Like you're never going to go so high with that. And if you took him in front of Saquon, you'd feel like a complete moron. So an absolute stone cold moron is what you'd feel like. So thoughts on this game, guys, in the offensive side?
I agree with you that I hate Seattle. I mean, as a Rams fan, I hate them overall, but they just are not fun to watch. They really aren't. Like DK is the guy. Like if there's any guy on that team that I know is gonna have a solid game, maybe not a spectacular game, but a solid game fantasy wise, it's DK. Lockett is he scores 35 points or 4. Like he's insane. Like he's one of the craziest footballers through his whole career that I've ever seen. Geno and Jared Goff are basically the same quarterback this year right now. They've thrown for almost the same amount of yardage, same amount of touchdowns, almost the same amount of turnovers. Like they are basically playing as the same quarterback. The Lions need to figure out a way to unleash that offense. Like they're too good not to. And I know Laporta's banged up this week. He might not be in there. But they got Amon-Ra, they got Williams. Like they need to get those guys cooking and get it moving down the field a little bit. I know they've relied on the running game. Like you said, it is kind of a every other drive kind of deal with Montgomery and Gibbs. But those guys are both viable running backs in the NFL. They're both good players. They're capable of getting the ground game going. I mean, that's not the problem. They got to get the passing game under control. Maybe a little more play action, get things going. I mean, that's what Goff's been good at his whole career is the play action. As far as like the running game for Seattle, they might have Walker back this week. I think that's a big upgrade over Charbonnet. So that could cause a little bit more problems for Detroit, whose defense isn't spectacular. So they're improved over last year for sure. But this is a matchup of two teams that are probably going to be in the playoffs, or at least in the hunt for it. So it should be a good Monday night game.
I think the Lions bring the Seahawks back down to earth this week. I viewed the running backs for Seattle as a push, one or the other. I mean, neither one of them does anything spectacular for me. Like you guys both said, DK is the only guy I would even remotely entertain on that team. I know because I did entertain drafting him. Instead, I took Michael Pittman, or I think you guys drafted DK right in front of me because he was the next guy up on the board.
I hate it though because it's on the Seattle offense. So every time you turn it on, you're like, oh,
Yeah.
like 2 targets. Oh, then you flip it back. It's like, oh, 10 targets. Geno must have went to him 8 times in a row.
Exactly. And
It's
then like
crazy.
as far as the Lions offense, I think you're right. It's just a matter of time before they get it together at least enough to what they did last year. I mean, the problem with Gibbs is they just don't trust him as much as they trust Montgomery. I mean, what was the first game of the season? Who'd they go to close it out? They went to Montgomery just because they trust him more. But I don't view that as a reason not to play Jahmyr Gibbs because Jahmyr Gibbs in the passing games just he
He's
opens
Alvin
stuff up a
Kamara
lot.
like. He can be Kamara like.
He could be, but he hasn't put it consistently together. So I'm perfectly fine with people drafting him in the first round above Saquon Barkley. I mean, that's a great move for me.
Stone cold
Just
morons.
just like you guys not drafting Barkley in the first 11 picks or Derrick Henry, So I will gladly go back to the running back strategy. You guys made it easy for me, but I think the Lions they're going to get it a little bit more together this week. I mean, who have the Seahawks played? I mean, they beat up on a Tua-less Dolphins team. The Pats with Jacoby Brissett, and I don't even know what the third game they won was, but they just haven't, yeah, they're a decent team, but between the two, it's in Detroit. I think Detroit's going to have a bounce back game. And actually, I look for Jameson Williams to actually put up some points again this week. Just because he's an up and down guy, and he's due for an up game at some point. I don't know who Seattle has
He's had
that's going to
3
stop him
games in a row, but like
by his standards. But we need more of that 30-point game out of him. Just 2 deep balls, something like that.
I'm waiting for the
I
Lions
think it's coming.
offense. The Lions offense, I feel like John, you said it. It needs to be unlocked. There's something wrong. Like it's not running at full speed yet, and like I think it's Laporta. I think they're not using Laporta like they did last year,
Yep.
and it's taken. They're not rolling coverage to the tight end, which is leaving the Amon-Ra double covered in a lot of spots. And then Jameson's making the most of what he's getting, but they don't have a ton of time to throw, and it feels like. Might be personal bias, but it feels like when Monty's in the game, everything slows down to a crawl, and then they get to the goal line, and no matter who's in there, they're just going to stack him and then run him in, and he's going to vulture every touchdown because only Montgomery can score on this team, or Goff, and it's very frustrating. I didn't know this, but apparently, like on the Lions forums, that's a normal thing because all the people that drafted Jahmyr Gibbs go on there now, and they're bitching and complaining, and they're like, "Oh, you guys, welcome. It must be a new year. This has been going on for a long time." So.
He sounds like your new
I like the
Kareem Hunt.
Lions.
He sounds like your new Kareem Hunt for you. Somebody who owned Hunt for years, and Kareem Hunt vaulted his touchdowns. This sounds like a very similar situation for you.
if Kareem Hunt somehow winds up being like in charge, like somehow he's connected to the Lions, it wouldn't shock me. It's because he's the worst. He's the worst. So, but this is fun, guys. So that's the week, the week 4 slate we have here. Um, anybody that stayed with us, I'm sorry. Um, if you're still here, you're a masochist. But you're a gold star. We're gonna try to do this again next week. We'll come up with a little format. If we do post this, I guess people will see it. If we don't, whatever. It's been fun. It's been good times, guys.
Go up
So you're still not. Nobody's gonna watch it. So
You
I
know
don't have to
who's
worry.
watching this. You guys know
Kevin.
who's watching it. Well, no, actually, Kevin might. But the other one, the only one I was really thinking is Steve. Steve's like, that's what
Steve's
they.
not gonna watch us.
Steve's sitting down there writing down notes.
He needs the info.
He's not gonna spend an hour. He might watch it in double speed. So I'll see if I'll send it out to you guys. We'll see how it looks. But awesome, guys. So it's been fun. I'll send this out and I'll see you guys next week.
All right, later.
See you, fellas. Good luck.
See ya. All right, dude. I stopped it.
Okay. It still shows
Um,
the red dot. I wasn't sure.
No, it's still so I stopped it. So it's stopping, and I'm just gonna leave. It should save it. So
Okay.
cool, man. And I'll share it over to you guys once it's done uploading and buffering and all the other bullshit.
Yeah. So, do people watch random strangers talk about
Yeah.
fantasy football? They
Have you ever
do.
seen fantasy football stuff, man? There's people on there that,
Bro,
that
I
put it
don't
up.
pay attention to
We
shit, dude.
we are not the dumbest people on the internet, by the way. So there's way
No.
dumber. There's way dumber and way worse that's been doing. Like I've been doing podcasting for a little bit here. Like as far as like hosting stuff and setting it up for people and all this other stuff. And there's so many people that are just bad at it. So you just get comfortable and you just just have fun with it. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
So,
Oh,
but
yeah,
you guys are better than like 95% of the people that I've done. Like if you guys have never done it before, it's really not a big thing, but you guys are more comfortable than like 95% of them. So,
I think you need a little bit of a rundown and probably not like a shtick, but like something
we got to
that
have
sets it
something.
off.
There's got to
Okay.
be a guiding
Yeah.
rudder because I looked at this list and I looked at the time. We were on like game 3 and we were like 20 minutes in. I'm like, we're not going to
Yeah.
make this. Like I was like, I'm going to go through and just try to speed it up. But really, it's
Think-
just getting the rep in.
You got to go I think you got to go more like highlight reel. Not highlight reel, but like, who do you think's going to go off this week?
I think we
And
do opposite. So if I could do this one again, it would be like, Pat, what do you think of New Orleans, Atlanta? Give me your winner, and then give me some players. And like we all talk about the winner of the game, what we think as
Okay.
far as the betting line, quick thought. But you give us the players, and then John gives us the players, and I'll do the next player. Like so, it's not everybody on every single one of
everybody
them.
on every single one.
Yeah.
Unless it was, that would work. And shit, I really do need the fucking Giants to win tomorrow. Stuttgart's got Dak and CeeDee Lamb. That's what I was doing the whole time. I'm scrolling through because I was like, you guys have paid way more attention than I have. And I was like, I know that I'm the highest scoring team in the league right now, but I paid attention to right before kickoff. I just drafted a good team, I guess. Shit, I could have still had Kyron, and I could have had Rashi Rice too. Instead, I have Etienne and fucking. Why, Doug? Why can't you get these bitches to play right? I don't get it. Apparently, he hasn't been calling plays. Who the hell's calling plays if Dougie P's not calling the plays? I think he should go back to being play caller. I don't think he was a bad play caller at all. I mean, all right, man. All right, I'll talk to you later.